Sweet. All right. Well, my name is Landon Ballard. I'm 22 years old. I know I look like I'm still in high school. This dude probably looks older than me. But I am 22 years old. I'm going to kind of just share my story with you guys. If at any point there's anything that I'm talking about that you guys want to talk about, something you relate to, something you have a question about, just raise your hand and we can definitely talk about it. We're going to talk about some touchy stuff today. We're going to talk a lot about mental health. We're going to talk about addiction. I know that you guys have probably already gotten a lot of information. What session did you go to before this?
Traffic stop behavior.
Traffic stop behavior. What about you?
Opening up.
Opening up, and all the way in the back there.
How to get your dream job.
How to get your
Dream job.
dream job. Oh, okay, I heard about that one yesterday. What's your dream job?
Pediatric nurse practitioner.
Pediatric nurse practitioner.
Oh, good. I have your job.
Nice.
How are you?
All right. Well, it sounds like you guys have already been to some pretty good groups this morning. So I'm excited to be able to be here this morning and kind of share my story with you. I know it's a little bit of an extreme story, but I would just ask you to try to listen as carefully as you can and take away as much as you can from it. I was born in 1999. I'm barely a 90s baby. I know there's no chance that any of you are 90s babies. What are we like, 2005 or something?
2007.
Holy crap. All right.
I'm a freshman.
There you go. There you go. So yeah, I was born in 1999. My parents were very Southern Baptist. My dad was in the Navy for 21 years. He was a chief petty officer. And I was raised with a lot of discipline. I was raised to respect your elders. It was always yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. That's just how it was growing up. They had a saying in the church, spare the rod and spoil the child. So there was discipline growing up. That meant like spankings were cool. You know, your kid talks back and they get a spanking. And so I grew up with a lot of discipline. I really respected my parents. Not because I was forced to, because I wanted to, but I knew that I had to. And so I grew up with a lot of discipline. I grew up with very strict parents. I had 7 brothers and sisters. So that kind of gives you some perspective on why they had to be so strict, because if they weren't, it would have been like a freaking madhouse. I mean, it was already a freaking madhouse, but it would have been crazy every single day if they hadn't been as disciplined as they were. And so that's basically how things were for the first 12 or 13 years of my life. After my dad got out of the service, our lives kind of started to shift a little bit. But I mean, my dad's a big softie now. The little kids, they have it so easy. But back when I was a kid, that's just how things were. And so I grew up always feeling like I had to be one specific person. I always felt like I had to hold up this view that everybody saw of me of the good kid who gets good grades, who's in sports and he's an athlete, who has friends. And that's what I did. Basically all the way through high school. Had a lot of friends. I was in sports. I was the starting point guard for my high school pretty much the entire time I was in high school. But at 13 years old, I started smoking weed. Which isn't really a big deal, right? It wasn't a big deal at first. You know, I was just going out, you know, while I was at school and smoking some weed with my friends. And I'd come home and I'd be the person that I had to be at home. At 13, I started developing that ability to put on different faces. Who does that? Come on, I know that even today with different friend groups, you act a little bit different. You act a little bit different, and that starts usually at a young age, seeing people do that. Seeing people, your siblings act one way around a certain group of people, and then when they're around their family, they act different. I developed that trait very early on. My parents, when I talk to them nowadays, they're like, you were doing what in school? You did what? And I was just good at deceiving them. I'm sure that a lot of you guys have done that in the past. Told lies or gotten around your parents so that you could do what you want to. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's just, kids do it sometimes. I did that a lot in high school and in middle school. I was very good at it. And so from a young age, I started thinking I was different than everybody else. I thought that my drug use to an extent was okay. As long as I was still doing what I had to do when my parents were there. When I was at school, actually focusing just enough to get good grades. I graduated high school with a 3.8. I wasn't that stupid. But I had to work harder than everybody else to get worse grades than everybody else because I was addicted to marijuana, because I was addicted to pills at 16. I had to work harder than everybody else. And I was okay with that because I still got to smoke my weed. I still had friends. I still was an athlete who people were like, oh, he's pretty good. You know? I thought my life was great. At 16, I started popping pills. It started one day, my friend just brought a prescription that he found in his mom's medicine cabinet and brought it to school, or I apologize, I believe it was 15. Brought it to school, and we just, here, everybody have a couple. It's medication, right? It can't be that bad for you. And that's when the pills started. And then I started finding, oh, my mom has a medication. So let me grab some of those and bring them to school. And then it was an everyday thing. Popping pills at school. Every day. When I was raised by a chief petty officer in the Navy. The first time they found out I was smoking weed was at 16 and they took my car away for a month. I had just gotten it. I'm out cruise riding it for the first time ever. I lived out in like right on the edge of Rockford. Do you guys know where Rockford is? It's pretty ghetto out there. But like right on the edge of Rockford, it's like the country. It's like there are people like bull riding out there, I swear to God. And so I'm taking it out for a joyride out in the country. I had it was a coupe. It was just 2 doors and it was a fast little Hyundai. And I'm taking it out and I get a call from my mom. I'm like, hey mom, what's up? Just taking the car for a joyride. She goes, get your butt home right now. I'm like, oh crap. And so the whole drive home just thinking, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Because for 3 years, I hadn't got caught. For 3 years, I hadn't got caught. And so I get home and obviously mom, dad yelling, blah, 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 give me your keys. And that was the first time I ever got caught at 16 years old. That didn't really do anything. It kept me at home, smoking weed at home for about a month. That's all it really did. As soon as I got my car back, it was back to the same stuff I was doing before. You know, and this time I had a car, so it was faster. At 17 is when things started to get a little rough, especially mentally. I started really feeling like crap about myself. Didn't really know why. Just started getting depressed, feeling like I wasn't worth much, feeling like my life wasn't worth anything. And that's when I started self-harming. I got hospitalized because of a suicide attempt at 17. And when I was there doing my 2-week-long stay, they told me I had bipolar disorder. And I was like, I'm good. I don't need it. I don't need bipolar disorder. I'm just pretend it's not there. Who's ever had something in their life that is a struggle for them, that's difficult for them, and they just give up and walk away and pretend it's not there? I've done that with a lot of things. Some of you didn't raise your hand. You guys are fighters. And that's good, if that's how you are. Personally, that wasn't my experience. I found out I had mental issues, and as soon as I got out, I started getting even higher because now I knew I had mental issues, and so I had to find some way to escape it. At 17, the cocaine use started. And at 17, I'm looking around like, what did I do? I was born into a good family. I was raised by someone in the military who was a Southern Baptist Christian. And now I'm doing coke at 17. 17 was also the age that I got kicked out for the first time. Since they had found out that I was using, they've been keeping an eye on me, doing drug tests, whatever. And every time I'd fail, I'd come up with an excuse for it. And because I was their little boy, they'd give me one more chance. Until that ran out. And my parents said, you can either do something about it, get the help you need, or you can get out of my house. And in my mind, I'm still different than everybody else. I don't need rehab. I don't need to get kicked out. You just need to leave me alone. I'm fine. I can control this. I can do drugs and be okay. I really believed that for a long time. I genuinely thought that I was different than every other addict. 18 years old, doing the same exact thing. Still feeling like crap about myself. And so I decided I didn't want it to be like that anymore. I was like, I'm going to step away from this life. I'm going to leave everything here in Rockford, and I'm going to move to Milwaukee. Seemed like a good idea. I was getting a job out there. Things were going to be okay. So I decided, okay, let's make this step, break off these connections, stop talking to everybody, and I'm going to be good in Milwaukee. After the first 24 hours in Milwaukee, I was using again. Probably the first 12. It was that same night that I moved there. You take you everywhere you go. I was the same person that I was in Rockford when I moved to Milwaukee. I didn't change anything. All I did was moved from where I was at to another place. But I'm still the same person. Things got pretty bad in Milwaukee. Because at that point, I had no family around me. I didn't know anybody out there. I just moved out there by myself. I was just renting a room from guys who were renting a room in their house out. Things started getting really bad. Started using drugs more, started getting involved with the gangs there. I started carrying around a gun. I got shot at a few times while I was living in Milwaukee. And probably the lowest point, or one of the lowest points, because when you go through things like this, it's hard to pick out what the lowest point was, because they all sucked. But I remember there was this friend who I had in Milwaukee, and I'd always go over to his house to get high with him. I overdosed twice in that house. And then finally, I watched him overdose and die. And I'm sitting there looking around like, how the heck did I get here? It was just a little weed. I was just smoking a little weed. The weed wasn't the problem. The addiction was. You always needed the next thing, the best thing. And eventually, when you get high, it takes your normal from here to up here. Now every time you sober, you feel so low. Eventually that level of high gets too high to even hit again. And you got to upgrade. You got to do something different. That's why they say weed is the gateway drug. We can argue about whether it's addictive or not, and maybe it's not, but still, it raises that level for you. And eventually, you're going to get tired of it. You're not going to get high anymore. You're not going to be having the same effect because your body's so used to it. And that's when I upgraded to the next thing, the next best thing, or the next thing I could get my hands on. One bad decision after the other, and they were all small in perspective. Every little bad decision I made was small in perspective of my addiction and my whole life. But every single one of them contributed into where I was at that point. After I saw my friend die, I decided I was sick of it. Did exactly what I did when I left Rockford, and I was like, forget it, I'm going to move again, get away from this, I'm going to go to Chicago this time. Because Chicago is better than Milwaukee, right? There's definitely no drugs in Chicago. There's definitely no gangbangers in Chicago. And I went out there, and for 3 months, it was the same exact thing. Getting involved with the same exact type of people, doing the same drugs, continuing to just throw my life away. But I always thought I was different. In AA and NA, do you guys know what that is? AA, NA, it's like a group of people who have an addiction or are alcoholics, and they come together and they talk about how to make each other better and how to build each other back up. But in NA, they have a saying, and every time I talk about it, I forget it. I don't remember it either. But anyway, we're going to come back to that. So I moved out to Chicago, still doing the same exact thing, involved with the same exact people. I didn't want my life. Oh, I thought that I was different. I thought that I was different than every other person, and that I could control it. And they're blank skin. It works if you work it. That's one of the sayings they have in NA, and that's what I'll talk about right now. It works if you work it. I wasn't working anything. I really wanted to get better. I really wanted to do better. That's why I moved to Milwaukee. That's why I moved to Chicago, is because I wanted to, but I wasn't taking the steps that I needed to get there. You can want something all you want. You can want to be an astronaut and go to the moon, but if you never study, if you never go to school, you're not going to get there. It's about more than just wanting it. It's about going out and getting it. It's about going out and doing better. And I remember it. In NA and AA, they have this saying, and it's that there's only 3 things that drugs will lead to, and that's jails, institutions, and death. Right? I'd only been to institutions. I hadn't died yet. I was still alive. I'd never been to jail. So I thought that I was different. Like, that was my measuring ruler of, okay, I'm not quite an addict yet. Because I haven't hit all 3, right? Or at least 2 of the 3. So I'm only 33% an addict. That's what I would tell myself. So Chicago got so bad, I decided to move back to Rockford. I was out of money. I knew that there were some people in Rockford who owed me money. Decided I would go back there. Thought my parents would take me back. Homeless in Rockford, 19 years old. Sleeping on park benches, sleeping on couches, anywhere that I could. I thought that I was different than everybody else, and here I am, homeless. The same consequences that everybody else who was doing the same exact stuff ended up with. I might have even had it a little easier than a lot of people. There was one moment in my life where I actually realized the extent of what was going on. And I realized what kind of help I needed. And that was right there. I got my first arrest. Now I'm like, okay, I'm 66% an addict. I should probably get some help. I spent 4 days in jail, sitting there, thinking about what I was going to do when I got out. I was like, I need to change my life. I need to turn it around. Like I said, my dad was in the Navy. You can imagine the phone call I got when I got out of there. My ears like bleeding. I'm crying. Dad, why? That was one of the scariest moments in my life. I'd never been in jail before. I've been shot at before, and this was scarier. I never thought I'd be here. Arrested because of my drug use. Arrested because I was high one day and decided to start putting holes in the wall. After I got out, really wanted to get better. Didn't want to see a counselor, didn't want to go to rehab. Ended up right back in the same situation I was in. Mom and Dad were like, can't stay at home. I'm like, okay. I was homeless for about a week, and then a friend was like, you can move in with me. I got this extra bedroom. Someone just moved out of. I'm like, okay, sweet. Other than that, he was a drug addict and a drug dealer. So now I just got to walk across the hall to get what I need. I put myself in a worse situation than I was in before after this. And still expected things to change. That's the crazy part. They talk about insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's what I was doing. I wasn't doing anything different than the last time, but I was still expecting to be in a better place. I was still expecting to have a job and have money and have friends. And the only friends I had were the ones that I gave money to or did drugs with. That was it. Those were the only friends I had. Everybody else who'd been real in the past saw what I was on a long time ago and dropped off. That was one of the hardest things for me, was losing everyone. It wasn't enough, though. For about 4 more months, it was the same exact crap, over and over and over and over again. Getting completely blitzed every night, not really knowing what's going on, waking up the next day and just like, all right, let's do it again. I ended up getting a job. Because of how I was raised, I always wanted a job, wanted to have a job, needed a job because I was a drug addict. So I even had a job at this point. I thought things were getting better. It was like 4 months since anything bad had happened. So I was getting comfortable again. Starting to think of myself as different again. 66%, yeah, that's not that much. Yeah, I'm still like 33% not an addict. That's how we're gonna look at it now. The glass is a quarter full, a third full. Sorry, I was homeschooled a little bit, so But I still thought that I was different. I was starting to get back into that rhythm, back into that same perspective. I was starting to become the person that I was right before that. And it wasn't until May 11th of 2020 that I realized how bad things had gotten. It had been about 4 months since my arrest, and that one looks a lot worse. My face is like lopsided. For some reason, I have an afro. Apparently, I put on 5 pounds. It looks pretty rough. Does that look like an addict? Not much. It only took 4 months for the transformation, guys. And on May 11th of 2020, I was arrested again. I don't remember it. I remember getting into a fight. In this picture, my jaw is shattered and I can feel my jaw inside my mouth. Got roughed up pretty good. Somebody had a pretty good left hook. And at this moment, I had a decision to make. There were 2 options. I woke up, realized I was conscious, looked down and see 2 police officers sitting at the foot of my bed, the foot of my hospital bed, and I was handcuffed on both sides to the hospital bed. And I look up, and all I could say was, again? It's like, really? What happened? My face hurts. There wasn't much. But at that moment, I had a decision to make, and it was either, 1, just die. Keep taking those drugs till you die or kill yourself, one of the 2. Or, you can get better, and you can live. And I didn't even make that decision at first. I sat there until, basically, for about 24 hours until they were done doing my job before I finally decided for myself that I really didn't want to die. I never thought that I would have to make that decision. That's addiction. I didn't have to be here. That's one of the things I want to tell you today. Bless you. That's kind of hard to come to terms with, is I didn't have to be here. My life didn't have to get so bad. It was all those small, bad decisions I made that seemed just like tiny little bad decisions, not a big deal. They didn't seem relevant. They didn't seem like they were going to change the course of my life. But you do enough of those, and you end up with apparently a broken jaw in jail for the 2nd time with no bond. I had to sit there until I went and saw the judge because they were like, you've done too much. You got too much on your record. You can sit here for a while. They were just little bad decisions. Letting this guy hang out with me, becoming this person's friend, not a big deal. I'm going to stay away from what they're doing. Just smoking a little bit of weed, 1 joint a day, come on. That's not that much, especially when we're sharing it. These little bad decisions that ended up putting you right here. So it's at that point that I decided I wanted to do something. I didn't just want to get better. I actually wanted to go out and take the steps to get better. So they took me straight from the hospital bed after they fixed my face up, straight to jail. Got out of jail and I called Ray and I said, Ray, I'm ready to get better. I'm ready to take the steps to get better. I need to get into rehab. Ray's always been that person that's been in my corner. He's always been supportive of me trying to get better, even when I would tell him off, cuss him out, tell him he didn't understand me. Be like, okay. All right. You're going to need me one day, though. And I'm going to be here when you do. So I called Ray, and he took me out there, and that's when I started. That's when I really started. It was the first time I ever walked into a rehab facility and wanted to get better. Every single time I've been before, it was because someone told me I had to. It was because somebody else told me I had a problem. And 22 months ago, I started my life. 22 months ago, I got sober. This might have been my last chance. I might not have gotten another chance after this. You guys have to use every chance that you get, because you only get as many as you get, and then they're gone. Let me say that again, because I know that's a little funny. You only get as many chances as you get. Some people get one. Gone. That's the only chance you got. Dead. Some people get 1 million. Dude gets hit by a car at 70 miles an hour and walks away unharmed. You got a lot of chances, you know. This might be my last one. This might be your last one. This might be your 100th, but it still might be your last. Take every chance that you have and do the most with it. You don't want to be the person that blew all their chances. I was watching, I forget what show it was, maybe Family Guy or something, and they had this little bit, and it was The Simpsons. And they were playing with this genie in a bottle, and the genie came out. No, it was SpongeBob. It was SpongeBob. You guys might know that episode where they're making wishes, and they used 2 of their wishes just on bullcrap for like a high five or something like that. That's probably not what it actually was, but like they gave away those chances, and then they didn't have any left. Like they were like, oh, we should have done something with those. We should have done something with those. Because here's the thing, even if your life is on a good path and a good course, and you're surrounding yourself with people who build you up, you still might lose your chance. I got sober 22 months ago, and 6 months after, 8, 9 months after, I lost another one of my chances. Riding a motorcycle down the street, and I hit a bend too hard, and I jumped off I had to bail my motorcycle, jumped into a ditch at 65 miles an hour and shattered my wrist. Could have died like that. There were trees out there. There were street signs out there. That could have been it. You don't have to be doing drugs to lose your chance. You don't have to be struggling with mental health to lose your chance. Sometimes it's not your fault if you lose that chance. But it doesn't matter if you did everything that you could with it. Not just for yourself, but for the people around you too. Because at the end of the day, I'd much rather help other people than help myself, because it's easier to help other people. But at the end of the day, you can't help anyone until you help yourself. You got to be good. You got to be okay before you can start to help other people be okay. You have to change your life before you start changing other people's. I did everything I could with the chances that I have now, and I lost one. Still, no big deal. Guess what? I got another chance. I'm going to do everything I can with it. And now I'm actually enjoying my life. I'm happy to get up every day. I remember what happened every night before. I'm not surrounded with fake people. This is my life now. And maybe that's similar to what you guys want. Maybe it's not. I got a little baby and I have a wife now. And they make me happier than any drug ever could in my entire life. If I hadn't used those last couple chances, I might not have got this. I might not have ended up here. I might not be standing here today. Use every chance that you get to the maximum of its potential, of your potential. And the only way that you can do that is by what we call a 3-point shot. So there's 3 steps to it. 1, identify that you have a problem. Figure out what that is. Maybe it's an addiction. Maybe it's mental health issues. Maybe you just are upset with the way that your parents are with each other. Maybe that they're divorced and that's the issue you're dealing with. Figure that out. Step 2, figure out what help you're going to need to get better. Figure out what steps you're going to have to take to actually go and get that help. And then the 3rd step, which is the hardest one, I did those first 2 steps for a long time. I knew that I had a drug problem. I knew rehab was what it was going to take. I knew I needed to get in somewhere where I was literally away from anything. But I wasn't willing to take that step yet. And I'm sure everybody in this room is at different places on that. But that's going to be how you live your life and to the fullest. That's how you're going to be happy. And so I made a little video You'll see a lot of skateboards in it. I love skateboarding, and so I put what I love in this video. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. Please pay attention to the words. As a kid, I saw addiction, but I never thought I'd be addicted, especially not to something so easily addictive. Thought I was smarter than that demon, but I never was. I thought I knew what I was doing that first time I took that smoke into my lungs. I wish that story stopped there with Swisher guts in the floorboard of my Camry and cup holder, but it grew and grew, and eventually my dreams faded out and the drugs turned me to something much colder. Time. All it took was time. And by the time I realized how far it had gone, it felt too late. I left a city to get away from it, but it just showed up at my new place. It's stupid to think you can outgun it, outrun it, or outsmart it. 'Cause this monkey on my back had me doing things I never thought I would have started. And yeah, I know my story, it's a little bit extreme. But you aren't off the hook. Addictions disguise themselves. They sneak. 'Cause whether it's craft shows, or benzos, or everything you read on that iPhone, we all have addictions. And maybe you just don't know. But no matter how it manifests, we all have to fight them. Porn, pills, caffeine. Maybe your addiction is to read. Maybe your addiction's to a sports team. Each one of these will find a way to break in and try to ruin everything. Sleepless nights, I had plenty of those, and not nearly enough of the opposite. Spent days and days at houses that weren't mine, just trying to feel something positive. But addiction wouldn't allow it. Just one more line, just one more pill. That's what it would tell me until I took too many, maybe hoping it would kill. It seemed like an endless cycle that I was never gonna beat. But if there was one thing that changed me and put me on my feet, it wasn't anyone else. It was me. Yeah, you and me. 'Cause no matter what I went through, I realized I did it to myself. I chose to pop every single pill, so I knew I could choose to get help. And if you think that it was all smooth sailing after that, I'ma tell you that you're dreaming. 'Cause I fell back down a lot. 2 trips to jail after I changed my way of thinking. Rehab, family, meetings in those rooms that labeled me as something I didn't want to be. That's what it took to really change everything. Yes, everything. You're lying to yourself saying I can put in half the effort. It takes 100% to change something you never had a handle on. But start today. And if you fail, then start again. 'Cause your life is way more than worth it. I know I had to be told that 1,000,000 times again and again. You're worth it. So put down that pipe. Put down that phone. Put down that magazine with lies on the cover. Stop altering the way that you think to fit the life that you want, like so many others. 'Cause 9 times out of 10, what you think you want is causing the friction. So look deeper than the surface. And then, and only then, you'll really start living. All of that to say that you are the change you've been looking for. You are the one with the power, and no one else has more. No substance and no distraction. The reins were given to you. So change your life, then help change another. And when you're finally there, enjoy the view. So just one more thing that I want to talk to you guys about. Did we talk about shovel and ladder people?
No.
Yeah? No?
No.
No? Okay. So there's kind of an analogy me and my buddy like to use. There's two types of people in the world. There's shovel people and there's ladder people. Shovel people see you digging a hole for yourself and they jump in and they dig it with you. They dig you deeper into that hole. Ladder people jump in there and help you out. And I know it's kind of a silly analogy, but I want you guys to be ladder people. Go back to your schools and start these communities of people who are uplifting each other. Every high school's got bullying problems. I know you guys have bullying problems, even in your personal life away from school. Not necessarily you being a bully, but there are bullies out there. Be the kind of person that's going to uplift those other people who are being hurt by that. And don't let it deter you. Love yourself. Be confident in yourself. One day your story is going to be the story that somebody needs to hear to get through what they're going through. Nothing that we struggle with is unique to us. I thought that I was so alone and that no one understood me, but once I realized addiction's a pretty common thing. Mental health issues is a very common thing. So there's people around you to help you. Most of those people are either sitting around this table or in your school. Other students who are going through the same stuff. You don't have to be on the other side of it to talk about it. We can talk about our addiction. We can talk about our mental health issues. Because you guys are going to be those people who uplift people. You guys are going to be the students that people start coming to when they want to talk about these things. You guys are going to be the leaders. So go back to your schools and start those communities where we're actually uplifting each other instead of tearing each other down. So that is what I've got for you guys. If you want to check out more about like what we do, there's also some more videos online. You can go to www.MWAH.net. Before we wrap up, I wanted to find out if there were any questions, anything that you guys saw in the video or that I talked about that really hit home with you guys. I mean, I know we talked about a lot.
I like what you said about chances, how everyone has like a different amount of chances even though it's taken opportunity.
Absolutely. And the sky is the limit for you guys because you're here right now. You're here right now, so I know you got another chance. So use that to the maximum of your potential. All right, well, unless anybody has anything else, I'll let you guys get on to lunch. I know you guys are probably hungry. I know I'm definitely hungry. I think they got some pizza down there for you.